Hi guys, imortilize here. We've got the Diablo 4 Season 9 PTR looming in just a few hours. I made a Rocksplitter Thorns build in Season 8, which went surprisingly well, and it is one of the top Spiritborn pit clearing builds right now. So I've gone ahead and made a build planner for Season 9 to test in the PTR. We've got a new unique coming called the Balazan's Maxtlatl, which helps us scale our Thorns damage. So it'll be very interesting to see how this build goes there. This lines up quite a lot to my Season 8 build, but there are some differences. Some things were nerfed. The base damage of Rocksplitter was buffed, and so on and so on. So I'll get into it. I'll run through this as quickly as I can. I won't go through it in absolute fine detail, so make sure you check the planner out that's in the description below. And then if you've got any questions, guys, you can leave comments in the in the comment section, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So let's get into this. So to start with, the first thing to mention before we get into the items is, as I said, the base damage of all basic skills is being buffed. What we don't know is if the Thorns damage on the node coming off of Rocksplitter, so this node here, Accelerated Rocksplitter, is the Thorns damage also being scaled as well, or is that still going to be the same? We'll find out when the PTR comes in for. So that's quite important, because if that scales, that's going to be great. That's going to be a damage multiplier. And if it doesn't, then it just means it's the same. Hopefully it's not any lower, at least. The base damage of Rocksplitter itself does not affect the Thorns damage we apply, though. So that is a very important thing to note there. Hence why we only put 1 point in Rocksplitter. So for the helm, this is designed as well, guys, to be a GG build. This is designed to be the top pit pushing version. There are versions I've got for farming and stuff as well. And obviously in a new season, you would have to run through the progression to get to here. But since it's a PTR and we're going to be able to cheat ourselves loads of stuff, we're going to want to test all of these things in the highest end. So I've designed this build to be there. If you've got any questions on other versions and other things, then feel free to, as I say, to leave that in the comment section and we'll get to that. Loyalty's Mantle is what I found to be the best item for this build, generally speaking, for damage, because we're using double Jaguar. It's unfortunate, but double Gorilla just does not scale as high as Jaguar Primary. The Jaguar Primary, because we're hitting so much using Ravager and 3 hits off of our Rocksplitter and all of the other things we've got hitting, it just and using Hunter, we're activating our Jaguar Primary so often that it's collecting all of the big hits from our Razor Plate and everything else, and it's creating these enormous damage spikes. The Gorilla Thorns damage just does not give us as much as this does. It is unfortunate. And on top of that, the Ferocity, the 1 stack of Ferocity is just very, very strong with Mystic Circle, the Plains Power aspect we've got on the Amulet. This gives us extra damage per stack of Ferocity. We've got this on the Amulet can go up to 18.8%, I think. If you put it on a two-handed weapon, it can go up to 25%, which is what I've seen other builds do. But on this build, we're going to put it on the Amulet because we have a better choice for the weapon. And then if you've got both Jaguars on with the Loyalty's Mantle, it is going to make all of your Jaguar cooldowns incredibly low with up to 60% cooldown reduction. So that makes Hunter's cooldown extremely low to start with. And it's going to give us 2 stacks of Ferocity. And it's going to make the Jaguar Primary do 30% damage rather than 15. So all in all, this is just a very powerful setup. As well as giving us all stats, movement speed, and a bit of damage reduction. It's just really good. It's a very good setup for this build. The chest piece is a must-have, the Razor Plate. This here, if you can get a 4G8 perfect Razor Plate, is the easiest item in the game to masterwork right now. You do not need to worry where your crits go, as long as they go into a greater affix Thorns. That will give you the same as going 3 times into 1 or 1 into 3 of them, which is why they have got 3 with just a single masterwork crit in there. It is designed to be, if you've got the greater affixes here, just slap them in there. So yes, it's pretty nice for that side. I do wish that there would be more base Thorns on here. In Season 8, it went up to 4,150 Thorns. It kind of needs at least double that, honestly. And the aspect, honestly, probably needs to be 2 or 3 times the chance for dealing the damage as well to give it more consistency, or just change the aspect to give us more consistent Thorns damage as a whole. Really, you're giving up absolutely everything here for the Razor Plate just to go for full Thorns damage. There is nothing else here. You've given up your Shroud of False Death and all sorts to go for this. So this really should be an OP Thorns item. This should be mandatory. If it's going to be mandatory on Thorns builds, it really should be just absolutely goated. And at the moment, it's very good. It's just not it's just not absolutely incredible. So maybe sometime we'll keep pushing for it and it'll get a bit of oomph. But it did pretty well in Season 8, so I'm expecting it to do as well in Season 9, as long as the values haven't changed. Gloves-wise, dexterity, maximum life, attack speed, mystic circle potency is an absolute must everywhere you can on this build. Triple masterwork into mystic circle potency as much as you can. Vortex size is super nice. We use this so that we can just drag loads of enemies into us, and this works really well with this build because we hit them with all our rock splitters, and then we collect all of the massive overpower and the overpower and razor plate damage on it, and then it comes back in the Jaguar primary, and it just creates this nice cycle of big bursts of damage. We're still putting Moonrise on here. It did get a nerf from 100x down to 60, but it does give us the extra movement speed and attack speed still, so it's still a very good option. We can counteract the loss of damage here with the adaptability aspects, as you will see, so we probably won't lose overall, as we'll get into in a moment. The new unique, this looks very good. The Balazan's Maxtlatl, this has a very specific thing on it, which I really like, other than the fact that it gives us Thorns damage more than a pair of pants could. It gives us Bastion. You get 120 Thorns for every rank of Bastion. This can go up to 8 ranks. That's over 1,000. That's nearly 1,000 Thorns as well. So you get more Thorns on this than you could before. You get Dexterity and Max Life as well. So it's just very nice. It gives you more Thorns attack on your close attacks, and it deals it as poisoning. So this is just going to be really good because it means you don't need to worry about poisoning enemies or waiting for them to attack you to be poisoned, so that your toxic skin passive, your 100% multiplicative Thorns kicks in. Now, in Season 8, this was a pain. You had to time all your active skills, so Armored Hide, your Ravager, your Counterattack, and your Toxic Skin. You needed to time them all so they're all active, and then blast Rocksplitter with your ultimate to get the most benefit out of all of them, all at the same time. And the reason Toxic Skin had to be used is because it was the only way we had in this setup that was viable to apply consistently poison to enemies all around you all the time. We won't even need to worry about this anymore because the Balazan's Maxtlatl just solves that for us. Everything we do is going to poison everyone, so that's going to be fantastic. We won't even need to worry about using the active on Toxic Skin anymore. There is a potential world where we could even get this off the bar by using the Wound Drinker. I need to test the unique Wound Drinker ring and see if that would be better. The problem is we would need to sacrifice an aspect, and I'm still not convinced that the Wound Drinker would give us enough damage and enough oomph to replace something like Redirected Force or Moonrise. Adaptability is just going to be too good to give up as well, so I'm still unconvinced. But it would allow us to shift something else onto the hotbar, so I don't know, there's a bit of testing to do there. But for now, Toxic Skin's there. We don't need to worry about the active. We're going to benefit from the 100x Thorns all the time. That's going to make the build a lot nicer to use. You're going to be able to keep the uptime of these much higher. Overall, you should be able to keep your damage consistently higher all the time. So overall, I'm very happy with this pair of pants. No idea how good the poisoning damage will be. Probably not amazing, but it doesn't matter. We can use it for utility here. The boots are pretty much an identical copy to my Season 8 build. Attacks reduce evade cooldown, dexterity, maximum life, movement speed, double movement speed on the tempers, and then rock splitter size. And that's something I tested later on. Getting rock splitter size to 97.5% with 2 rolls in your masterworks on it makes your damage higher because you can hit more enemies around you. And the way that Rocksplitter works is with the Zeppazon tech, it creates 3 of them, and it creates them like a triangle. So in the middle, they all overlap. And if all of the overlapping Rocksplitters hit the same target, they can all overpower and hit them with the big razor plate damage all at the same time. And that can all play into the primary Jaguar, and that can return the damage, and it just creates a much bigger damage spike. So the bigger your Rocksplitter is, the easier it is to hit enemies with all 3 at the same time, which is why we've done that. Weapon-wise, this is incredible for these builds. It's a shame that they've brought it back to the levels it was in Season 7. They buffed it to 130% on the aspect rather than 100. They've reverted it to 100. because they've buffed the base level of the basic skills. That is kind of a nerf to the Thorns, but then it depends if the Thorns value's been buffed as well. We'll have to see. That wasn't in the patch notes. Maybe the base Thorns number has been improved, and if it has, then it doesn't matter. That would make up for the difference. But this is still an exceptional weapon for this build. You got double damage, and it gets you to 94.5% with a triple masterwork greater affix. So you've got nearly always double damage. I don't know why it doesn't go to 100%, but it doesn't. Ranks to follow through gives you 4% on third attacks. This weapon makes your basic attack do their third attack every time, and then on the third one you get 3 of them, and as we said, you can hit with all 3 at the same time, so that gives you 12% more damage per rank. You get dexterity, so that's just great for any skill. It gives you more damage, and the lucky hit chance doesn't harm as well. So overall, very good weapon for the build. Amulet, we're going for dexterity, furnace, and potent. I said in the previous build to go for dexterity, follow through, and potent. That would be just fine as well. Furnace would give you slightly more damage in this version of the build than follow through, but follow through would be just fine. You could go for any other damage aspect, damage passive here. It'll be very hard to find an amulet like this, but if you can, then excellent. I will hopefully be able to copy my character over from the mains current season into the PTR, and then I'll be able to make use of the amulet I've got, and it's basically what this requires. And we have got the Plains power on here. It is just too good not to use. It gives you too much damage with the ferocity stacks. It's probably likely this is something that will get nerfed in the future at some point, but hopefully not for Season 9. We'll see. Rings wise, these are the same as my Season 8 setup pretty much. We've got dexterity, maximum life attack speed, mystic circle potency with the triple on it, and hunter's cooldown reduction, because we just want to be able to spam our hunter ultimate all the time. We're still using aspects of adaptability. Now this did get changed, and for all intents and purposes it looks like a nerf, but it's not really. That's the thing. This only went to 100% multiplier before. It now goes to 60% as long as you cast basic skills. Still increase damage depending on how much primary resource we have. We don't spend our primary resource in this version of the build, so you should be at your maximum resource all the time, and you got 100 by default, so that's 60% multiplier. However, we can scale our maximum resource in our paragons and get it to above 100, like well above 100. So if you can get this to about 160 resource, then you'll be at 100% multiply. And if you go higher than this, then you'll be able to scale this even further. So overall, we can make this just as strong, if not slightly stronger than what it was before, and then hopefully use some of that extra to counteract the Moonrise nerf. You'll probably not make up 40%, but you'll be able to make up some of it, as we'll get it, as I'll show in a moment. The other ring, we've got dexterity, attack speed, resistance to all elements. You probably, with GG gear, could get away without resistance to all elements here, but I found it a lot easier to cap than with this here. Triple in the Mystic Circle, Hunter's cooldown reduction, and we are using the aspects of redirected force because we are able, unless they've shadow nerfed this, it was not in the patch notes, we are able to crit and overpower our Thorns, which unlocks a whole world of damage to us regardless of the overpower nerfs coming in. And that is done through the runes, and that is done through the combination of an activator and the Zan rune. Now, I use the Moni and Zan rune. Means every 6 attacks you will guarantee a critical strike and overpower on your attacks. There is another combo where you can use the Moni and Watch rune. It creates the Necromancer's Decrepify on the floor, and then you can use the Zol rune and the Zan rune. The Zol rune allows you so that every 4 attacks you will activate your Zan rune, because it's how often you activate your class skill. Now that will activate your criticals and overpowers that much faster. The problem is, if you use that setup, you no longer have Vortex on your build, and no longer having Vortex on your build means you can't drag the enemies in so easy. Now, there is a way to drag the enemies in using our catalyst, so there might be a world where we could swap these around and use that combination and use the catalyst, which is called Celestial Surge, and use that to drag enemies in. However, this has a pretty high cooldown on it. I don't know how this works, so we need to be able to pull them in a lot faster than every 11 seconds. So if we can do that, great. If not, then having the Cry rune on with the Neo rune allows us to do it every 3 to 4 seconds, which is really, really nice. It just constantly pulls enemies in, and it's kind of needed on this build to be effective, especially in the pit clearance. and in hordes. So I like this setup, but I will be testing that other setup as long as we can fit something else in, and we'll see what works. So yes, the Neo and Cryrune Vortex activated by not taking damage. We should be generating so much barrier here that we should never be taking damage. And the way that we're generating lots and lots of barrier, if this works the way it reads, on Rocksplitter, we are going to activate Cosmic Anomaly. We don't particularly care about the unstoppable thing on pass on here because we can get unstoppable elsewhere. We don't particularly care about the anomalies, but what I do care about is the fact that it doesn't seem to have a cooldown on it, which means if that's the case, I can activate it, and that means I can generate barrier for 50% of my maximum life for 4 seconds every time I activate this. And if I can activate this every attack, then I can basically generate 50% of my life as barrier all the time. I don't know if that's actually how it's going to work, but how it reads, that is how it should work. And if that's the case, it's going to make you very, very tanky indeed, because you attack super, super fast on this build. It's all about attack speed, and that's all you want. The other Arcana we're using, Catalyst applies Vulnerable. We don't have many ways to apply Vulnerable in this build. So this, again, if we're activating this at least every 8 seconds or less, which we should be, then we're just going to apply vulnerable to enemies that are hit by these everywhere. So that's going to be really nice. And then the final one, again, we're using the Execute on non-boss enemies and giving us extra attack speed. If that attack speed goes into attack speed bucket 1 or 2, that will just benefit us and help us get to that 200% mark. Particularly if this goes into attack speed bucket 2, on this build, it'll help us get to that last breakpoint, which is 190% plus, which we can't do on this build. You can only do that in a Jaguar casting build where you're using the base skill of a Jaguar. But overall, and I've put in the poison infusion just because, honestly, I didn't really see any others that were particularly better. The poison damage here could be nice. Otherwise, we could use the Nebulous for reduced damage on enemies. That could be really nice. But we'll have a play around with these and we'll just see how they work. It's not really clear exactly how we'll be able to interact them right now. The jewels, we're using the Seal of Denial. This gives us multiplicative barrier, fortifying thorns. It's going to help us cap our barrier. It's going to give us fortify when we get it through our mercenary, and it's going to give us more thorns damage. This is brilliant for this build all round. I've put Scornful Light in, more multiplicative damage, but we take more elemental. We're going to have lots and lots of elemental resistance and health, so we should be able to take that hit there. And again, Idle from below, more stats, more life, and unhindered is can never harm. And I'm sure, right, the Jewel Guardians can't be too bad, right, guys? I'm sure they'll be fine. Famous last words, we'll see. And then we've got Dexterity Jewels in the armors as we just scale our Dexterity for our skill damage. So that's pretty much the item setup. Skill tree wise, as I say, we've got Rocksplitter, we run down, we've got the Vortex nodes just for knockdown, and while we got Barrier, we got extra crowd control there. We've pretty much taken all the damage passives, as many of the damage reduction passives as we can. Toxic Skin with the Thorns damage. Ravager with the stacks of damage here just helps us proc our Jaguar primary, Spirit Hall more often. We can take counterattack with reinforced counterattack because we're crit striking and overpowering with the Zan rune, so we can benefit from this. We're taking reinforced armor and hide for more blocked damage. We come down, we take Bastion, of course. This is really, really good. More Thorns. We've taken all the Gorilla stuff. We've taken Dominant just mainly for bosses when they're staggered. It just gives us a bit more damage on them. This build suffered on single target damage with no adds, so this just gives us a bit more there. We could go all the way through. We obviously take Potent. We can take Furnace because we've got the critical strike damage per stack of Veracity, and because we're using the Jaguar primary, all of our skills are Jaguar skills, so we can benefit from this. We've obviously maxed out the Hunter. We've taken all of Supremacy, all of Resolution, all of Intricacy. This will help us keep our all our skills up all the time and all the nodes in between. You could potentially put some points in Initiative here if you want to have another form of Unstoppable on the build, but I don't think we're going to need that. And then I've taken Adaptive Stances. It gives you 30% damage reduction using Rock Splitters, and you get 75% core stats. Helps you just get way more damage, helps you cap all your rare nodes in your Paragon board and so on. Really, really good. I'm not going to go through the whole Paragon board, but glyphs-wise, we're using Ritual, we're using Spirit, we're using Revenge, we're using Colossal, and we're using Hubris. They're exactly the same as what I used in Season 8. The only difference is I have jigged them around, and the reason I've changed them around, the most important thing is, as we can scale our damage on adaptability using Maximum Resource, in the Sapping board, we have got nodes for Maximum Resource. So I have put the Hubris node up here The magic nodes one scales slightly more than the rare nodes one in Revenge. So you'll be able to get about another 13 maximum resource out of each of these magic nodes, as well as getting 12 here to start with and 16 here. So that's 16 plus 12, that's 28. Plus you're going to get about another 39 from there. So you're up to 47, 67 from that cluster already. Plus you've got some down here. So you've got another 8 here, so that's 75. You've got another 4 here, 79, and another 4 here, 83. So you can get 83 maximum resource from this board using this setup when you've got your glyph at level 100, and that makes up for the lack of 40% you're missing on it to start with, plus another 20%, which makes up for at least a little bit of the Moonrise node that we're missing. If you decide to run a Harlequin's Crest on this build instead of the Loyalty's Mantle, which you could do, you would get more maximum resource there as well, but I don't think that's going to outweigh it. In terms of where the other nodes went, Colossal's in the same place. I've moved Revenge into Spiny Skin so that that can scale the in place of where Hubris used to be. So we still get a decent amount of extra thorns here and a decent amount of extra damage. We get slightly less base thorns this way, but it's so marginal. It was better to get the maximum resource because of the multipliers. We're using Spirit up here in the Viscous Shield board instead, because we can get 110 dexterity here, so this is very nice. And then Ritual is down in the first board again because we can get 64 int. Overall, we've taken most of everything on the board here. Mercenaries wise, right here, come down, take your armor, and take Mocking Lure. The main reason is shield charge. When he attacks, he gives you 45 for 5% of your life, and where you're casting barrier all the time, you will very, very quickly fortify up, especially with that duel on for 30% extra fortify. This will allow you to get to maximum fortify, which gives you the fortify damage reduction all the time, and that also gives you more overpowered damage. Now, they have capped where the overpowered damage can scale in your HP and all that stuff, so it has taken a massive nerf, but it will still be something to use on this build because it is still a damage multiplier. So we want to be fortified, we want to be able to do that on top of our max life, and we want to hit the maximum overpowered damage we can get on the build still. And then we're just going to have to see where the numbers land. It may well be nowhere near as good as Season 8, but we'll have to see. And I think, oh yeah, we're using Variana as our reinforcement again. I just really like the attack speed off of her. You could chop and change these to what you like, but I really do like the Variana attack speed here, activated in Rocksplitter. It just keeps you, attack speed's the name of the game in this build, it really is. The higher you can keep your attack speed, the quicker you can attack, the quicker you can activate your overpowers, and the quicker you can do your damage. And the more often you're going to align your Razor Plate 10% chance, and so on and so on. So that's pretty much the build as it is. This is obviously theory. It is a rock in the rough. I will be testing this, probably not today live on PTR because I'm going to be doing another build, but I will be testing this week. So feel free to jump in and check it out and see what we get up to, guys. If you've got any questions about the build or any suggestions or anything you think's not right or anything you think it could be better, please leave that down in the comments. I really want to talk to you about you guys about this stuff. I'd love to be able to converse and come up with an awesome build. I had so much fun playing this in Season 8. I really hope that some of you had fun playing it and can enjoy this in Season 9. And yeah, see you on the PTR, guys. Keep safe and see you in the next video.